Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all an update to my Cardfight Vanguard Overdress Dragon Empire deck profile for Post, A Brush with the Legends, with the second Cardfight Vanguard booster set out in the English format. We are now with the updated support for the Overdress Dragon Empire deck. Really happy with the support. It just makes for a full power Dragon Empire Overdress deck in which it can get multiple attacks off against your opponent and just set up Trickstar in a much more quicker way. And with the addition of a new trigger unit for the deck, it just adds for more power and defense against your opponent depending on the type of game you go up against with them. So very happy with the results, like I said. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the start deck, just like before, not much has changed with it. Still using Trickstar as the starter. This is just so you can set up Trickstar in the drop zone that much more quickly from your soul, since you have to Soul Blast for your grade 2 unit Rayu. So then you can just at least have a Trickstar in the drop zone in the case you don't get the additional ones, either by drive checking them or drawing them into your hand. So then you'd only have the one to rely on from Reno. For the grade 1, the Blaze Maiden Reno, aside from the fact that you don't get the draw for Trickstar anymore, it doesn't really matter if you go first anyway, which is what you're trying to aim for a lot of times with this deck, just so you have that early game pressure. With Reno, when rode upon by Rayu, you have the option to search for a Trickstar from your deck. So along with the one you have in your soul as your starter, you'll have one additional one on the field. So you should at least have potentially 2 units in Overdress on your field by the time you ride a grade 3, as long as you open up those Overdress units to use. With our starting grade 3 being the Chakrabarthi Divine Dragon Nirvana. With this card, when rode upon Rayu, you can Soul Blast a card, which should be your Trickstar, to add a Virina from your deck to your hand. So then you're given the unit for your Overdress play, along with the Trickstar set up in the drop zone, which you can add back to your hand just by discarding a card from your hand with Nirvana. For the additional grade 3s that we run in the deck, I also run 3 additional Nirvana. This is so you have your Persona Ride target with this deck. The full power of the deck really comes out when you can Persona Ride, getting the plus 10,000 power with Nirvana's Persona Ride, along with its own plus 10,000 when it attacks, giving all of your units that have Overdress in its card name, along with Nirvana, plus 10,000 power. So Nirvana can attack for 33,000 power itself and give the plus 20,000 to both your front row rear guards, along with the Persona Ride and its own counterblast skill. For the added backup power, I also run 3 Virina Valiente. Now, this unit dropped down to 3 since my last update, just because I feel the new grade 2 is definitely a lot better for consistency, but Valiente can still give some pressure with the restand power of being able to counterblast and discard when this unit attack hits, and it permanently has plus 5,000 power for each of the units in original dress. So it can play defensively against your opponent, making it that much more harder for your opponent to attack into this unit, and like I say, it can just attack and it has to hit. So you can even hit a rear guard with this card. Let's say your opponent gets an over trigger and has the 100 million power to their Vanguard. You can at least then attack the rear guard, and then if that attack hits, restand this card and then potentially attack their other rear guard, at least clearing out your opponent's front row. And then for the last of the grade 3 units for the deck, I am running 3 of the new Blazed Fist Monk Damari. On rear guard at the end of the battle that this unit attacked, you counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards, retire it, and if your Vanguard is Chakrabarthi Divine Dragon Nirvana, choose up to 1 grade 0 card from your drop zone and call it to rear. So the ideal card to call out with this card is Trickstar, because then it works very well with the new grade 2 unit in the deck. Having that set up and calling out a grade 0 means you can attack with this, setting up your front row for Trickstar to, let's say, attack if it has the proper boost against your opponent's unit, and then Overdress with that card with your new go-to grade 2 unit, which is the next one we are running 4 of. Ideally, do want to run 4 of it. Sadly, it was only able to get 3 of this card, but with Virina Urger being a powerhouse grade 2 Overdress unit, you Overdress with Trickstar by just placing this card on top of Trickstar, and from your hand at the end of the battle that your Trickstar attacked a Vanguard, if your Vanguard is Chakrabarthi Divine Dragon Nirvana, you can Soul Blast 2, Overdress this card on your Trickstar on rear as stand, and then you countercharge 1. So making up for the counterblast you may have potentially used with Nirvana. And on rear and guard circle, if this unit is in Overdress state, it gets plus 10,000 power and plus 10,000 shield. So with this, you have a defensive unit against your opponent. You have a unit that can give you a multiple attack against your opponent. It's just overall power with this card. I run 4 of it, so you have the better odds to add it to your hand also. also. But with this card and Trickstar being able to attack first, you can have those potential 4 attacks attacking with Nirvana first, then having these set up, let's say, with your Damari for an additional attack, setting up the Trickstar as another card. You have plenty of power for multiple 4 to 5 attacks in one turn using this deck. For the other units for Overdress, I still run the 4 Virina Arcs. This is for draw power. You can definitely invest your hand in a lot of plays in this deck, and the fact that you have to Overdress means that you're basically using 2 cards for 1 in this deck since you have Trickstar, and then your Overdress unit. So you need that draw power to make up with Virina Arcs, and being able to countercharge with Urger just means you can then have more Counterblast to use, not just for Nirvana, but for the Virina Arcs that you want to use to draw into plenty of different cards. And giving you +5 on the turn you Overdress means that if you Persona Road and also use Nirvana, this card can hit for 35,000 power alone. And then for the last of the grade 2 units, I just run 2 Virina. I had this card at max number before, but with the added boost of different Overdress units for the grade 2 lineup, I feel you only need the 2, mostly for the fact that I can search it with Nirvana after riding over Ryu. So with that search, I can just add this card to my hand. I run 2, so I at least have the search target. There's a chance that both could get damaged in the damage zone, but less of a chance than at least 1. So as long as I have 1 left in the deck to search out with for when I ride Nirvana, then at least I have accomplished the mission that I was going for. And like I said, just taking that risk with running 2, and the fact that hopefully just 1 gets sent to my damage zone or drawn into my hand. So at least I always have that plus for the grade 2 search. And that is it for the grade 2s. Moving on now to the grade 1s. I run 4 of the Blaze Maiden Marin. When your unit with Overdress attacks, put this unit into your soul. Choose one of your units with Overdress ability, and it gets +5,000 to end of turn. So I run this just for soul buildup along with the +5,000. It can provide a boost to another unit on the field, but it's when your Overdress unit attacks is when this card shows its full power. So being able to rely on this for that soul buildup, meaning that I need the Soul Blast 2 for the play for Virina Urger, is what I normally rely on this card for, and why it is a 4 of in the deck. And then lastly, for the other grade 1 spot, just 4 of the Sentinel Twin Buckler Dragon, having the option when placed on guard circle, and then you discard a card from your hand, unless you have 1 other card in your hand. I always go over it in every video, just for those that don't know. With the new Sentinel, if you just have 2 of these Sentinels in your hand, and you place 1 on the guard circle, since you only have 1 other card in your hand, you don't have to discard it from your hand for the guard, meaning you can guard with the last Sentinel in your hand. So if your opponent has the potential to hit an over trigger, giving 100 million power, you can at least block the Vanguard, and then having the last Sentinel in your hand to block the other rear guard that got the 100 million power. And then now moving on to the grade 0s, I run the 3 Trickstar. Additionally, the 1 being in the start deck, so running 3 more in the deck just gives me consistency for searching it out when I ride over Reno with Ryu for that search of Trickstar onto the field, and then just potentially drive checking it or drawing it into my hand gives me more and more cards to work with. And even if I damage zone it, as long as I heal it, it's in the drop zone, I can recycle the card back into the field with Nirvana. And then for the added plays for the trigger units, I am running 4 of the Critical Blaze Maiden Zone and 3 of the Conduct Spark Dragon for 7 criticals in total. This pressure is definitely what I need. With Virina Arcs, I have my draw power taken care of, since the next trigger lineup goes to Blaze Maiden Parama. With this card on the guard circle, if your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, this unit gets +5,000 shield. So a 20k shield can definitely help for a lot of different attacks your opponent may have, and that's why I chose this card over the draw trigger in the deck. You'll definitely see a lot of different decks with this new set running the front trigger over the draw just for the additional shield power. A lot of them can just have draw consistency with a lot of the different orders, and this one definitely comes in handy for that extra shield, along with the plus 10,000 power it can provide to your front row if you didn't use Nirvana that turn. And I also still run the 4 heal triggers, so the Blaze Maiden Rena for this deck for the trigger of choice, and the over trigger being the Dragon Deity King of Resurgence, Dragveda, for its restand power with your Vanguard. And then having your Vanguard attack again, just for the potential twin drive, makes this a very, very scary over trigger. And then as for the go-to play setup in the deck, like I said, when you have Nirvana on your Vanguard circle and you go for Damari on the extra rearguard spot, you can attack with Damari and then set up your Trickstar on the field after this card attacks when you have the counterblast for it. As long as you have the proper card to boost as well, let's say for Trickstar, to hit your opponent, you can hit a rearguard for 11k power with this card alone, but if you Persona Road, you have the additional power to all your front row for that turn, meaning you don't even need this boost, and a Trickstar can hit for 15k power against your opponent with this card. And you called this card out with Damari, so that's your second attack there. And then using the power of your Urger after you overdress, giving you that play for this additional card on your unit to then attack again against your opponent. But before you do any of that, you can attack with your Nirvana. So then you'll give the units with overdress on the field the additional power, attacking with your Urger, putting the Mirren into the soul for that extra soul buildup, and then attacking with this card for that fourth attack that turn, which can provide additional pressure to your opponent altogether. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. As we start with set 2, there's definitely a lot of different decks to update with this set, having 10 from the original set and the new Draconic Overlord and Phantom Blaster Dragon deck. So definitely look forward to them all for this set. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.